event of a fire, follow me, I'll be the first person out of this building, because I still hold the Staffordshire under-13s 200-metre record, set in Cobridge in 1982, and if you were around in Cobridge in 82, you had to run quickly, didn't you? Andrew, congratulations on your return to Staffordshire University and your visiting professor role. Andrew, when he was here, of course, went from kind of Director of Digital, then Digital Technical, Pro Vice Chancellor of Digital. Andrew, of course, you were winner of the Chief Digital Officer of the Year Award 2020. You were listed in the top 20 of UK CIOs in 2019, 2020 and 21. You were the calendar pin-up boy, weren't you? In Chief Information Officer World, and he was at Staffordshire University. Keeps that one quiet, of course. Welcome, thank you. Currently the holder of a visiting professorial title. Very good to work with you on the exec. You can see lots of your former colleagues and current colleagues come out in force today. Good to see you all. Andrew's going to talk to us this evening on lessons learned in the digital transformation sphere and innovation. Going to share, Andrew, looking forward to your intelligence on the ways that your sector has transformed, the different ways I think that the public sector can learn from your lessons in terms of how we nurture and kind of unleash innovation and talent collectively on generative AI and advancing technology. You're going to talk about your, I think, career transition. I know you're working in partnership with some universities, University of London and others. Looking forward to stealing all your ideas this evening. You're going to talk, I think, for 45 minutes, Andrew. But you've got planted questions with your family in the front row. I kind of teamed up to do that. No, genuinely, look, I haven't seen you for a while. Looking forward to how I think you've worked between different sectors. You know, looking forward to hearing about you, about the lessons learned. And also happy to take questions. You're going to talk for about 45 minutes? Okay, there's a clock, digital clock right here. We are 12 seconds past 6 o'clock. So you're precisely on time. Colleagues, this is the new lectern and the new brand. I think, Andrew, you're the first visiting title holder to ever come here under the new brand of University of Staffordshire. We're not allowed to use the word the University of Staffordshire. And I, of course, wanted to change my name to James of Martin, but then I'd be Chancellor of Vice, if you understand the logic here, and I can't go there. So, Andrew, welcome back to, I think, to your university. You're an alum. And so a round of applause before he starts the presentation, please.
Thank you very much, Martin. Really appreciate it, and it is absolutely wonderful to be back at a university that means a lot to me. So I think the doors are locked, so just a couple of things that I like to start off with. When I do a presentation, I like to just talk a little bit about myself, just for a short while, just to personalise, bring the human aspect to it a bit, or at least try to. So point number one about me. This is something my family and my old colleagues are aware of, and that is I am an absolutely horrible public speaker. So prepare yourselves. Seriously, I am heavily introverted. I have ASD, so if I'm not looking people in the eye or any of those things, it's not because I'm trying to be rude. I am just wired a little bit differently. Okay? Second thing to know about me is that this university has played a huge role in my life. So I was the first person in my family to go to a university. That was a big thing for my mom, who was here today at the time. My brother is also here, Stephen, and no, Stephen, the University of Life does not count. Okay. First person in my family to go to a university. During my studies at Staffordshire, I actually became a father at a young age, 21 as well. Fortunately, at the time, the university had a nursery, a free nursery as well. So I was able to take my daughter, Carmen, put your hand up, Carmen. I was able to take her, drop her off at the nursery, do some studies, do exams, assessments, attend some lectures, and then pick her up afterwards and take her home. Without that free nursery provision, I would have had to have dropped out of university. So the university was an incredible force for good in my life. If I hadn't have graduated, I wouldn't have had the opportunities that I've been fortunate enough to get since I've been here as well. So a huge thing. I've mentioned that I am pretty rubbish at presentations, so my apologies on that. Fortunately, I also have my wife here, Nikki. Put your hand up, Nikki. I think that's almost everybody in my family that I've embarrassed so far, so I'm doing well on the tick list. She knows how nervous I get when it comes to public speaking. She knows that I don't enjoy it, that I get a little bit wound up. And so she sat me down before I came on, before I arrived, and gave me some fantastic words of advice that just really helped settle my nerves. So she said, Andrew, you will be absolutely fine. Just a couple of things, right? Don't try to be funny. Don't try to be charming. Just be yourself. Thanks for that. Anyway, that is enough about me anyway. So one of the things I love about working for the university as well, I mentioned the nursery. It was an absolute force for change for me. In my role as Pro-Vice-Chancellor, one of the things I was fortunate enough to be able to do was to help with a new initiative that was to build a bigger nursery. So there aren't many jobs where actually you've got that sort of circle of life that you can come back and give and provide opportunity to others as well. I know exactly what you're thinking. It is pretty difficult to look good in a business suit and a hard hat and a high vis and what appears to be a ceremonial shovel there. I know I've not succeeded there, but I did try my best, I assure you. Right, let's get started. So, digital transformation. First off, before I start going into some of the lessons I've learned, I thought I'd just spend a few minutes painting a bit of a picture, setting the scene for digital transformation, particularly in the UK at the same time. Okay, so as part of my role, executive lead for UK education at Amazon, spend a lot of my time talking with executive teams of universities globally about all things to do with transformation and strategy. We do something called executive briefings where we will get a leadership team together and we will talk to them about strategy. At those sessions, as it says here, the word agility is mentioned every 6 minutes. Probably not that surprising. The need for organisations to be nimble, to move quickly, that's been particularly helpful over the past 5 years with things like the pandemic. So being able to respond to change, really important. The word agility is then closely followed, so the second most mentioned phrase is digital transformation. Bit of a loaded phrase, but it is still vitally important at the same time. The third phrase is artificial intelligence. That probably won't surprise you as well. Talk a lot about that. On that though, with digital transformation, actually our research suggests that 70% of digital transformation efforts don't actually reach their goal. That might be why at times it's got a bit of a stigma. Everybody's doing a digital transformation, everybody's a bit cynical about it. So this suggests that most of the time they don't always reach their goal. I'm going to dig into some of the reasons behind that, and I'm also going to give some of my lessons learned just to help maximise the chances of success. In terms of the background as well, Collins Dictionary tends to have a word of the year each year. A couple of years ago, that word was permacrisis. So it's this idea that actually globally we've been stumbling from one crisis to the next, and it's just felt like a really tough time. We had the pandemic, the war in Ukraine, a high inflation economy, conflict in the Middle East now. It just feels as though it is a really tough world to operate in, especially if you're a business. And you know, I think it's fair to say for universities, it's a really tough and challenging time at the moment. So this idea, again, that digital transformation is probably more important than ever. Collins Dictionary word of the year last year, again, was artificial intelligence. So a bit of a theme there. It's probably at this point that you're beginning to realise or understand why I don't get invited to many parties. Just spent the past 5 minutes or so sucking the fun out of the room and telling you how rubbish everything is. It's actually okay not inviting me to parties because I wouldn't go anyway because I'm an introvert, but that's besides the point. So, if it's difficult, if most digital transformations fail, why do we bother? Well, let's have a look at some of that. Again, some global research. 91% of learners globally that were surveyed indicated that they expected their digital experience, their online provision, to be at least as good as their face-to-face experience. So student expectations increasing there. 67% of learners globally suggested that they wanted their university digital experience to be at the same level as Netflix and Amazon. So again, expectations are high. And then finally, 50%, so half of learners, and we expect this to increase, said that a university's digital provision, the tools, the technology that they used, was in the top 5 reasons of why they selected a university. So the importance of digital and technology really increasing. Student expectations increasing, okay? There's this thing, again, it's a bit of a loaded phrase that's called hyper-personalization. It's this idea that these days, people, consumers, expect not to just have to take things off the shelf the way they are. They want them tailored around exactly what they want. They've got increased expectations that things will be tailored to their needs. The best example I have of that is this, which is genuinely an order that was placed at a Starbucks in the US. I'm not going to read it out because that will eat up all the time. Certainly glad I wasn't behind this person in the queue as well. If I was ordering the next coffee after this person, my order would be matching my mood, which would be dark and bitter. But again, it's just this idea that, you know, when I was a lot younger, there was this notion that you had 2 choices when it came to coffee. Do you want milk? Do you want sugar? These days, there are 101 choices just so you can tailor it to the way you just want it. That's the same with technology. That's the same with university services, public sector services at the same time. Another reason of why to keep bothering, so actually technology can be a significant force for good, and that's been proven time and time again throughout history. So every era of human progress, significant human progress, has tended to be underpinned by a foundational technology. Often that age is named after that technology as well. Stone Age, Iron Age, moving all of the way through to the digital age at the same time, okay? We now think there are some people suggesting that we're entering the artificial intelligence age and that there will be a profound impact on the way we work, the way people learn at the same time as well. So actually, technology continues to disrupt. On that as well, so there's been disruption before. When we've transitioned to things like the industrial age, there's been a big impact on jobs, skills, concerns over will people find another role. All of those things, actually, in the round, technology has lifted all boats. So over the longer term, it's always contributed positively. Health and longevity have increased because of technology. The levels of education globally have increased because of technology. Gross national income as well have increased because of technology. So when used properly, technology can be a force for good. So of course, we should still try and maintain our transformation efforts. I only get paid if I mention generative AI at least 5 times a day with Amazon. So here's the slide on generative AI. In all seriousness, though, people think there will be a profound impact from generative AI in the world of work and jobs, disruption, threats to roles. For the education sector, I think it's in actually a bit of a unique place. Not only can it make use of generative AI for solutions, I also think the education sector needs to provide some of the solutions itself to what will happen and what will be caused by generative AI. So, for example, those of us that are around in the 1980s, certain sectors, I'm thinking of steel, they rapidly declined. Those people that worked in industries such as steel, coal, they tended to lose their jobs. It was very, very unlikely that they would find new employment again. One of the reasons for that is because this country did not have the infrastructure to quickly reskill people. And again, that's where places like the University of Staffordshire, got that right, I was on brand, the University of Staffordshire come into play, okay? So university sector has to provide some of the answers to the disruption that will be caused by things like generative AI. I'll talk a bit more about generative AI later on. So that's some background to digital transformation. That's why it's important to still keep going. What's the underlying reason that most digital transformations fail? Well, there's one major one, and that's the fact that actually Technology change has far, far outpaced the rate of change within organisations. In digital transformations, it's actually the digital bit is the easiest bit. It's the transformation bit that's the hardest. That's where people tend to get it wrong. They tend to try and adopt technology without changing the way that they do things and the way that they work. And that never ends well, okay? So one of the biggest lessons you will hear from me is focusing on people, culture, and ways of working, not just the technology. A good example of that is when the automobile started to come about, this fantastic new way that you could get from A to B much, much more quickly. The UK government produced a series of acts, the Locomotive Acts, the most famous of which was the Red Flag Act, that actually stipulated that every car in the UK had to be crewed by at least 3 people. One of those people had to walk 5 paces ahead of the car and wave a red flag around to warn all of those people that a slow-moving vehicle could be approaching their way and they only had about 10 minutes to move. That is an example of how the technology was ready, the way that people use things, governance, policy hadn't caught up. Unless you bring these things together, you will never make the best use of technology. Okay. So, I've got about 5 lessons or thoughts now for how to maximise your chances of success. Some of the things that I've seen in my experience, no doubt, so quite a few of my old team are here. They will call me out if I'm ever lying or a bit economical with the truth, or if they say that's not what happened, it was an absolute nightmare for us. Please feel free to jump in afterwards. Nevertheless, this is kind of what I've seen through my experience of working in the public sector, now for a global company like Amazon at the same time. So, lesson number 1, transformation starts with people and leadership. It's really, really important when you're looking at transformation to set a clear vision, who is doing it, what are they doing, and why. So before you even start thinking about technology, what are you trying to do? What is transformation? Well, there tends to be a conflict where a lot of people make the mistake that they think transformation is actually optimization, where essentially you're doing the same things, you're just doing it either a little bit quicker or cheaper. So cutting costs. That isn't transformation, that's optimization. True transformation isn't doing the same things better, it's doing new things and doing them differently. That's the difference. Just to ram the point home, transformation isn't just about technology. It's not about just, oh, here's a new piece of software that we've put in place. It's about people and culture. People thinking differently, behaving differently, and doing different things. Transformation isn't a set of one-off project plans. So if you ever see this digital transformation program that is 10 separate projects, all with their own project plans, get very, very wary. That is not true transformation. True transformation is about embedding constant change within an organisation. It's about tackling culture so that an organisation is constantly moving forward, iteratively, learning more, innovating. And as I've said, transformation, it's not about optimisation, it's about different ways of thinking and doing. Bit of a geeky chart just to underline that as well. So optimisation, typically for businesses, you have where you currently are, you design, this is where we're going to get to, and you run a project to get there. Typically, that can be fairly successful when you're trying to optimize, when you're trying to cut money, save money, go a little bit faster. Most businesses approach that when times are certain, when it's a stable operating environment. Transformation is a bit different. So transformation, there is no true single destination. It's this idea that you embed things so that you are constantly iterating and moving forward, you are constantly experimenting. You don't know where you will end up, but you know you are making progress. Change becomes normal, and transformation is far more important when times are tough, in uncertain times. It's not very often companies optimize their way out of trouble. The best thing to do is to invent your way out of trouble, okay? So I'm talking about people. Another thing that I've seen, so who is leading your digital transformation? Is it the chief exec, the vice chancellor? Is it a CIO? Is it an external event like COVID that's driving all of your behavior? From what I've seen, one of the mistakes that is made is that people give digital transformation to a single role. There's the Chief Information Officer, there's the Head of Digital, go off and do digital transformation. That will never work. Digital transformation takes collective effort from everybody in the organisation. Your whole executive team needs to understand digital transformation, buy into it, and lead on it, not just expect somebody else to do it, okay? Leaders need to define a clear purpose and a vision that inspires as well. So why are we doing the things that we're doing? Why should they matter to us? In my time as well, I've come across a number of institutions, a number of companies. Some vision statements are really good, some are absolutely horrible, okay? You could go to a member of staff in some of these organisations, say, what's the vision? What are you trying to achieve? And they don't have that much of a clue. An example of one, this is a genuine one, that just I think is unhelpful, is this. Again, I'm not going to read it out, but I don't know about you. I only like to leverage my global synergies at a weekend, so that's not just going to cut it for me. But it's just word salad, isn't it? It's just meaningless. Makes no sense at all. Clarity of vision is important. So Amazon, it's as simple as that. It's not about technology. Amazon's vision is to be Earth's most customer-centric company. That is what drives us on a daily basis. That is the most important thing to us. One of the nicest vision statements I've seen, so I talked to a vice-chancellor of a university within an hour's drive of here. Their vision and mission was essentially this: how do you feed billions of people without destroying the planet? That's the type of vision that people can buy into and think, yeah, we're going to work on that and we can make that happen. Far better than that rubbish about synergies and all of that nonsense, okay? So a vision statement is really important. Culture, very, very important. I think it was Peter Drucker that once said, culture eats strategy for breakfast. It's the same at Amazon. The most important thing to Amazon is actually its culture. Projects can fail, our strategy can fail. As long as we are maintaining our culture, we are actually okay. Our biggest fear at Amazon isn't what our competitors are doing. It's that we start to lose what we call our day one culture. Our day one culture is that anything is possible. We're continuing to invent on customers' behalf. We don't see blockers. If somebody starts talking at Amazon in a meeting, we can challenge them by saying things like, that seems like a bit like day two thinking. Day two for us is when an organisation starts to stagnate, gets into old ways of working, starts to get driven down. That's when you start to decline. Amazon spends a significant amount of effort on a daily basis maintaining its culture. Doesn't treat culture as a one-off project. Leaders at Amazon probably spend about 80% of their time on culture, not projects. Principles can help in terms of defining a culture as well. Here are a few genuine ones, again, that I'm not a particular fan of. So number one, integrity. We work with customers and prospects openly, honestly, and sincerely. That was Enron. They were an absolutely terrible company that did some horrible things, so that didn't work that well. Number two, we value our employees. I mean, that's kind of setting the bar pretty low, isn't it? You would hope that you value your employees. Why do you even need to say that? Quite scary. Number three, we expect to be customers' preferred choice. It's pretty rude, pretty presumptuous. Again, not that inspiring. Number four, we operate within the letter of the law. I mean, you have to do that. That's not a principle. That's just, that's legality. Number five, no person should supervise more than 5 to 6 reports whose work is interlocked. Anybody that can tell me what that actually means afterwards, don't bother, because I don't think I'm actually that interested. But it's just so uninspiring, isn't it? At Amazon, we have our own. These are used on a daily basis. They're widely available on the internet, so if you're that way inclined, feel free to go and read up on them. I won't talk about all of these. It would take a lot of time. Customer obsession, that is the most important one to us. The other one I wanted to call out, probably invent and simplify. That's really important to us. How many people here have spent time with people in a company that take an idea and make it far more complicated almost to the point that it sucked the fun out of everything. At Amazon, conciseness of thinking and simplifying ideas is incredibly important. Let's just distill something to its core idea. That's an important skill. That's an important part of our culture that we work hard to maintain. There are others there as well. I won't go through them, but basically it is 80% of what leaders do at Amazon, spend time nurturing the culture. By way of example, most roles at Amazon, you spend your first 3 months, you're not allowed to do your actual job. You are strictly forbidden from participating in things like team meetings and the day job that you're expected to do. That's kind of contra. Most people expect to hit a new role and think, right, I've got to prove my value, I've got to start delivering results. At Amazon, because we hire for the long term, those first 3 months, you just immerse yourself in the culture. You start meeting people, building your networks, learning about the culture, learning about the Amazon way of doing things. And then after those 3 months, that's when you start to do your actual day job. So it's that investment in people, not just saying, right, you now have to prove yourself. We're going to work with you to develop you, and so you can hit the ground running. Really important. Lesson number 2. Basically, we can't solve our problems with the same way of thinking we used when we created them. This is a classic one for public sector. So if we are going to truly transform, then we genuinely need to change the way that we're doing things and approaching things, not just using the same old ways of working to deliver. And I've got some examples of that. Bureaucracy, yay. Hands up here, anybody that's worked in public sector or with public sector? Yay, okay. So, hopefully, one or more of these phrases will resonate. You'll recognize them and say, that kind of sounds fairly familiar when it comes to public sector. Don't permit shortcuts to be taken in order to expedite decisions. Refer all matters to committees for further study and consideration. We love committees in higher education. Oh boy, do we. Make committees as large as possible, never fewer than 5 people on a committee. Let's throw everybody in there just in case they've got an opinion about something random. Let's spend the first 15 minutes, half an hour sometimes of a meeting, haggling over the precise wording of minutes. Anybody have any issues with that? Oh, actually, they said something slightly different. Who cares? Refer back to matters decided upon at the last meeting. So actually, we've decided to do something, but let's have another philosophical debate. Let's reopen that and have another conversation about it, just to really slow things down. For those people that work in public sector, do you recognise any of those? Do you think, yeah, that makes a lot of sense? The interesting thing, so all of those verbatim were taken from this book that was declassified a couple of years ago. Basically, this book was used by the US intelligence services to go around the globe and ruin businesses. They would go to countries that the US deemed hostile. They would go there, spread this as training and education in order to slow countries down. It is essentially an operating manual for working badly. But for some reason, it seems to be heavily adopted by public sector. Okay? So the true lesson here, change the ways that you're working. If you want to make the best use of technology, if you want to truly transform, don't just use the same ways of working. When we even look at things like the way that we choose transformation initiatives, what are we going to work on? That can be incredibly painful. Again, anybody working in public sector may recognize some of these. We love 20-page plus business cases, don't we? Let's have every single thing possible in this business case, just in case we need it. Some transformation initiatives focus on a piece of software. If we buy this tool, magic will happen. They need to be all things to all people, business cases. So this will never be approved unless there's something in it for every member of the university. So let's try and shoehorn everything in. That tends to mean you get exaggerated benefits. I want this project to be selected, so I'm going to say, yeah, of course it'll save millions of pounds. It'll increase student recruitment by 1,000,000% and all of those things. It drives the wrong behaviour. Business cases need hundreds of accurate predictions in them. This project for something that we've never done before, we've got no experience of doing, here's the 2-year plan of exactly how it's going to work. I mean, it's just madness when you think about it, isn't it? How can you possibly know how long something's going to do when you've never done it before? Seniority versus good data as well. Sometimes in public sector, it's the person that's the most senior in the room that will decide which project is going ahead, not the data, not actually the data is telling us that this is going to give us the best results. And then finally, every initiative must succeed at all costs. There's this huge pressure that if we're going to invest in this big project, boy, it had better work, otherwise heads will roll. All of these conditions create for a pretty toxic environment, actually, don't they? These aren't really lending themselves to successful transformation, in my view. So what's a bit of a different way of doing things? If you imagine so there's an initiative that wants to get people from A to B much quicker than by walking. Yeah, something like a car, okay. The traditional way of doing it, as it says here, is linear, isn't it? Let's capture a ton of requirements up front. Let's spend about 3 months drawing out all of these exact specifications, requirements. Then let's spend the next 2 years building it, and then we'll unveil the curtain, and the customer will say, is that it? Actually, I was hoping for something a bit different, okay? A more successful way to do it is knowing that actually you will learn by doing. New projects, they don't just work A to B in a flat line. They're far more chaotic than that, so why not plan for that from the beginning, okay? Learn as you go along. Get something into the hands of customers early, get their feedback, iterate from that, and then you are far more likely to get to where you wanted to in the beginning, okay? Taking that car example and learning by doing, for example, so in that first instance, the way the public sector quite likes to operate, they will start building that thing that's going to get you from A to B quicker. And the customer, the recipient, they're not that happy initially. Oh, you know, this, not sure what this is, not sure what this is. In the end, here you go, here's the final product. Oh, actually, that looks like it can get me from A to B quicker. Happy with that. Then they get incredibly angry when they say, yes, it was quick. I've just gone straight through a building. How am I supposed to slow this down? Oh, you wanted brakes. You didn't ask for brakes. I didn't know I had to ask. Learn by doing. The second way to do it is getting things, a minimum lovable product, into the hands of customers, getting their feedback, going time after time. So initially here, that's going to get you from A to B quickly. That's something that didn't take us long to build, skateboard. Oh, okay, yeah, I've used that. I can't steer it. That's going to be problematic. Okay, next iteration done very quickly. You can now steer it. What do you think? That's better, but actually I need some brakes. Okay, next iteration is brakes. Okay, starting to really like this. It's useful. I'm making use of it already. Be great if it could go quicker. Right, we'll put an engine on it, and eventually we get to the final thing. But we are constantly getting user feedback and adding value. That is far more successful than just this idea of spending 6 months trying to perfect a plan and trying to perfect requirements for something you've never done before. There's a great example of that at Amazon, actually. So that picture on my right, that's the first edition of the Amazon Kindle. It looks awful, doesn't it? That does not look, and the latest one is the other picture, of course. Amazon are willing to be misunderstood for a long time. Okay, they do things for long periods. They don't just invent for short returns. They have a vision. But what they do is focus on a single thing at a time. Rather than aiming for perfection, with the Kindle, the original design goal was to be able, for a customer, to be able to buy a book anywhere in the world in under 60 seconds. And that device let people do that. Tick. For the next iteration, let's hear what customers are saying. It's too big. We'll fix that next. So it's this constant idea of moving forward, getting feedback and building, not trying to wait until something is perfect to deliver it. In terms of reminiscing, my old team may remember this slide. So this was a slide in my original digital strategy 7 years ago. And this was trying to be a little bit provocative. It's this idea that in a university, artificial intelligence is a new user interface. AI is a new UI. This idea that at some point in the future, it could be that students, learners, will have more interaction on a daily basis with AI than any other single individual within an institution, okay? This was misunderstood at the time, but we still started to build it because we had a long-term vision on it. This actually got us at the forefront so that the University of Staffordshire, was the first university in the UK to launch an AI-driven student buddy. Okay? One of my biggest regrets is that we didn't double down on that and accelerate it further. But it just shows you how some of that willingness to be misunderstood for a long time, having a clear vision based on what your customers are looking for, can be incredibly powerful. Speaking of AI and generative AI, this is one of the things that I'm actually seeing a lot of at the moment, and I think it's quite dangerous, and it is certainly not the Amazon approach. And this is basically lots of people coming to public sector and basically saying generative AI is the answer. What's your problem? What's the problem you're trying to solve? At Amazon, this is in complete contradiction to the way that we do things, okay? Technology is not the jumping off point for us. A customer problem, challenge, or solution is, okay? What we tend to do, this is an important mantra at Amazon, is to fall in love with the problem, not the solution. So always stay really clearly aligned to what you are trying to solve. Don't fall in love with that shiny piece of technology, because that can steer you away from your original goal. Sometimes solving a problem may not need technology. Okay? So be laser focused on the problem you're trying to solve, not the shiny, shiny technology. Lesson number 3, that is to relentlessly focus on your customers. So a nice quote there from Jeff Bezos, founder of Amazon. Customers are always beautifully, wonderfully dissatisfied, okay? So who in their right mind likes dissatisfied customers? Amazon do. They absolutely love them. 90% of what we build is based on customer feedback. The other 10% is when we're looking around corners and anticipating things that customers will need, but they haven't asked for yet. Our biggest source of invention at Amazon is customer feedback and customer dissatisfaction. So we embrace, actively seek out customer satisfaction so that our army of builders, our entire workforce, can build on their behalf, okay? So at times, sometimes, universities, public sector, they hate dissatisfaction. It's just people moaning. Well, actually, that's a really important and rich source for you to be able to do things. NSS results, for example. Let's not open that spreadsheet and search for the library or IT resources because, oh God, I hope they don't murder us. That's at Amazon, we would be all over that. And we would be equipping the entire workforce with, this is the feedback we've got from students. Now let's go away and invent on their behalf. The great thing is about customer dissatisfaction is it never stays still as well. So, for example, years ago, when I ordered something from Amazon, next day delivery would really make me smile. That's pretty cool, isn't it? I can order something and get it delivered next day. Fantastic. These days, if I'm looking at the Amazon website and something isn't available for next day delivery, I can start to get a bit grumpy. So expectations always increase. And that's why Amazon are doing things like same-day delivery. We are investing in things like drone technology. We're already doing drone deliveries, constantly inventing, but based on our customers. Not technology for the sake of it. What feedback are we getting from our customers? What are they saying to us? How can we help them? An example of a similar approach to this that we did at Staffordshire, hopefully my team will remember this. We used to have monthly management meetings. Team managers would come in each month and report on various KPIs and performance stats, and it would be horribly, horribly boring, wouldn't it? It would be things like Wi-Fi has been available 99% of the time. The virtual learning environment has been, see how I said 99% of the time? That was good, Emily, wasn't it? That was good. Virtual learning environment available for 97% of the time. The problem with some of these are actually they're what is sometimes called watermelon goals. So on the outset, they're green, tick, we're doing really well, whereas actually customers aren't that happy. So take Wi-Fi. It may be up and available 99% of the time. Is it actually usable? That's a different question. Can people actually use it? That's very different. What we did to become more customer obsessed, we changed those management meetings so that every month, rather than reporting on all of these horribly boring KPIs, every team manager would come in and talk about the solutions that they'd put in place for customers, or the problems they'd solved for customers, or the new functionality they'd introduced as well. So much more driven by what's the feedback that we're getting. And that makes us understand why we're doing what we're doing. We're not just here just patching technology and doing the same old. We're actively working to help our customers, and that could be pretty powerful. At Amazon, we have a signature mechanism that is called working backwards. Every single product or service that has been created at Amazon has used this mechanism. The entire workforce uses it. It is standardized. It is how we innovate. It is a way of capturing ideas for innovation. We do it with a few artifacts. So if you think back of those horrible 20-page business cases that are all things to all people, Amazon has a very, very different approach. We have a couple of artifacts. We have the press release, which is a single page, and some frequently asked questions. You can support it with some visuals if you're artistically inclined. The press release, single piece of paper, is written so that if you are launching this product or service, what would the press release say? What would customers be saying about your product or solution? Instantly, that gets you thinking with the end in mind, rather than just focusing on the technology. It's not easy. As part of my role, I work with startups and ed techs, and we go through this process, and it can be really challenging to distill your business ideas into a single one page of paper, but it's incredibly important for Amazon. For that press release, essentially, you have to answer 5 questions. Nothing at Amazon will ever get anywhere unless the person that is proposing it can clearly answer these 5 questions. Number 1, who is your customer? Number 2, what's the customer problem or opportunity you're trying to solve? Number 3, is the most important customer benefit clear? So again, this is very, very different to that business case we were talking about earlier that is all things to all people and has 50 benefits. Let's focus on the most important thing we need to do here, and let's do that well. How do you know what customers need or want? So do you actually have some data points that say, yes, customers really want this or need this, rather than it's the most senior person has had this crazy idea, so we now need to go and do something. And finally, what does the customer experience look like? So actually, how are customers going to make use of that? So that has been used for Amazon.com. It's been used for Prime Delivery, billions of Alexa. I always pause when I say Alexa because I've got one at home and it fires up in meetings and all sorts. Billions of interactions each week, 1.6 million packages delivered every day, thanks to invention and thanks to things like artificial intelligence. One of the things we're doing at the moment, Amazon One in the US, I don't know whether anybody's heard of that. Basically, that is the ability to pay for goods, products or services with your palm because it's unique to you. So you don't carry a card, you don't need your phone, you just check out like that. On that, this is an example of clarity, invent and simplify. Amazon delivered what's called just walk out technology. I don't know whether you've had the opportunity to experience it. You tend to find some of these shops more in London and globally. They are mini supermarkets. They are used in some libraries as well. You go in, pick up what you want, you walk out, and you're charged for it. Artificial intelligence, cameras, all of those things can see what you are buying, and you are charged, so it is frictionless. Distilling that big technology investment and project into a few words, it's basically this. Okay, so today, busy, on the go, tech-savvy urban dwellers. So straight away we know who our customers are. We know that not everybody will want to use this. We're focusing on a certain set of customers and being really upfront about that. What are they having to do at the moment? Fight crowds and waiting long lines. That's the problem we're trying to solve. What do they actually want to do? They just want to grab a few things during a busy day. So this is, again, this is narrowing down what we're trying to do. We're not trying to get them to do their weekly, monthly shop using just walk out. It is a very specific solution used for a core thing. That simplicity of thinking an idea is incredibly important to Amazon. Moving on now, 2 more lessons. Lesson 4 is around innovation. So innovation is the spark, transformation is the flame. So I've talked about inventing on customers' behalf. If you're going to invent on customers' behalf, then you need to experiment and you need to innovate. Public sector isn't always geared to provide a platform for their staff and teams to innovate. It can be pretty hard, actually. Experimentation is incredibly important at Amazon. It's something we work hard at every day. As Jeff said in one of his shareholder letters here, failure and invention are inseparable twins. If you want to be innovative, if you want to be an innovative public sector organisation, you cannot increase your rate of innovation without increasing your rate of failure, because the two go hand in hand. So you have to learn to be good at failing, knowing that not everything that you try will pay off. If there is this culture that failure in a project, when you're experimenting, innovating, is punished, or, you know, all of a sudden that team over there, they're no longer liked by exec because they did something that failed, how realistic is it to expect other people in the organisation to try to experiment and do new things? Not very. So we need to nurture a culture of experimentation and innovation. Hands up, anybody in the room that has got an Amazon Fire Phone? I still haven't met that person yet, and I work for Amazon. Jeff there, triumphantly holding the Fire Phone aloft. It was a massive failure. Millions invested in the Fire Phone, and it flopped. Okay? However, from that failed Fire Phone, the team took some of the learning and went on to create Alexa, because they were given the platform to do so. So the most important thing, I'm going to be very honest, not many people get promoted at Amazon off the back of 10 spectacular failures. Let's be realistic. The most important thing is learning from failure, taking a failure and saying, what can we take from that and how can we be better? That's embedded within Amazon. That's the way we do things. Again, so within public sector, how can we nurture an environment that helps innovation, experimentation, and doesn't punish failure? Really important. When we launched Beacon, we did it in some pretty fast timescales. I'd like it to have been slightly faster. But there was a real fear of what if students reject it? What if they don't like it? My kind of counter argument to that is I don't actually care if we launch it and it gets 1-star reviews. If we act quickly, get this into the hands of students, what that will mean is either one, we'll get the feedback that we need to take it to a 5-star app, or number 2, we'll understand that we just need to try something else. We'll have learned something. So let's not fear about getting something into the hands of our customers and trying something new. And you can learn a lot from do that. Okay? So that's really important, that culture. And actually, again, I've talked about optimization and the difference with transformation as well. Optimization projects require a different set of skills. They require good planners, people that are good at regulation, compliance. Transformation should never sit with those people. Transformation does not belong with compliance. Transformation, he says, thank you, is better equipped to people that learn quickly. You don't need to be a good planner, you need to be able to learn fast. In an organisation, that's where transformation should be run, okay? Not about compliance, it's about learning quickly, making sure everybody knows that change is the new normal. You might be thinking, when is this lecture going to end? You might be thinking, okay, that's great, Amazon have got a ton of resource, and how do people make decisions? How do you empower your workforce? There are a number of ways you can do it, just some small things. One of the ways we do it at Amazon is we really promote autonomy. So people closest to our customers are empowered to make decisions. That's really important to us. Not people that are just at the top of the tree, because at times they can be divorced from customers. We have this concept of one-way and two-way door decision-making. So a one-way door is where you make a decision, you walk through the door, it shuts behind you, you can't easily reverse it. A two-way door is if you make a decision, you implement it, you walk through the door, you don't like what you see, you just go back through the door. You wouldn't do it. Okay? The interesting thing is, the vast majorities of decisions that we make on a daily basis are two-way door decisions. We can just try it, and if we don't like it, we'll undo it. Okay? If you are waiting for 90% of the information you'd like to have before making a decision, you're moving too slowly, 70% or so as well. An example at Amazon, you may think it would be crazy for Amazon to try to change the location of its pay button. Okay? Ouch. What if you did that? It could cause chaos. We can try it. If we start getting negative customer feedback, we'll just move it back. and we'll have learned something from doing that. A one-way door decision is if we're going to build a new fulfilment centre. Of course, that requires a bit more planning and health and safety and all of those things. But we mustn't mix the two, and we must understand that there is this thing called two-way door decisions. We can move quickly, we can help people to make their own decisions, especially if they know that they can just undo things. Final lesson, and that is just to learn and be, everybody loves a meerkat, don't they? Is to learn and be curious, okay? It's this idea that, well, let me talk you through a traditional career. It looks a little bit like this. It is simplified. So typically, you start off as a child, everything is wonderful and amazing, and you're exploring with things. And then you go to school, and you start to learn about the things that interest you the most. You go to university, perhaps, to specialise in the subject that you are most passionate about. You go into a career, you build your experience, you might end up in a leader or management role, used to being right all the time, and you have a ton of expert power that you can deploy all of the time. And then at some point, you might be able to retire, maybe. The thing about that is, actually, the rate of learning for individuals decreases over time as well. So just when you're at that moment, that point in your career where you've got the most autonomy, the most decision-making power, it's when you've learned the most. You are probably basing a lot of your decisions on what has worked for you up until that point, when actually that can be a very dangerous thing. So actually exposing yourself to new ways of thinking, that can be an incredibly powerful thing. Sometimes leaders say that training, skills development is something that the workforce do. I don't do it. That's, let's get the masses to tick off this training exercise on X, Y, and Z. It is absolutely vital that leaders in particular expose themselves to new ways of thinking and new skills. Otherwise, stagnation, day two culture, decline. Okay? So, in summary, just a few bullet points. Transformation and doing it well. It's around setting a clear vision, setting some clear principles. Don't confuse transformation with optimization. Don't fall into that trap. Embed new thinking and approaches. Embrace changes constant and necessary. It's not just a one-off project. It is what you will be doing a long time. Nurture a culture of innovation. Help people to experiment, try new things, and remove the fear of failure. Learn and be curious. Seek out new approaches. Okay. Hopefully that hasn't been too painful. The only last thing I wanted to do is say a huge thank you to a couple of different groups of people. Firstly, my family, of course, who are here supporting me as ever. It means a lot. You've always supported me in my career. My team and the university colleagues as well. One of my favourite roles throughout my career was University of Staffordshire. Hopefully, as you can see from some of these photos, I had an absolute blast, and this university means the world to me. So thank you to everyone for making it so much fun. Thank you for helping me to break some of the rules and to invent new things and doing things like creating rooms that we call the unicorn room and things like that. It meant a lot, but seriously, it's been a real privilege to be able to talk to you this evening. Happy to spend 5 minutes or so taking questions if you have any. If you haven't, then hopefully there's a little bit of cake left and some drinks. But thank you.
Thank you, Andrew, for this great lecture. Do we have any questions for Andrew? Okay, well, let's start with Martin.
Uh-oh.
Won't be a 5-minute question, Andrew, don't worry. Transformation is a two-way vehicle. What I'm interested in is, of course, you've taken stuff from HE into AWS. What have you taught them? Is it kind of that way? You talked about the other way around, but you got kind of a long experience career in the police beforehand, and then in HE. What's HE? Kind of what molds have you broken the other way around?
Yeah, great question. Thank you for asking that. There's this idea at times, really unfair, that private sector is great at transformation and innovation and public sector is really bad. That's not entirely true at all. There are some things that I believe public sector does way better than private sector. Some of the things that I've taken across to Amazon Web Services, from things like my time in policing and HE, again, is really around the why people are doing things. So just harnessing people's passion for why they're doing things. When you're working for a university, you are genuinely working for a force for good. The things that you do have such a positive impact on the life of people like students, parents. So for people at Amazon, okay, obsess over your customers, but also focus on the net effect of the things that you do as well. So the other people, the parents again, all of these things. That's something at times private sector just focuses on, you know, this one thing, and hopefully profit will come. If you focus on the social impact and the social value of what you're doing, actually that can earn a lot of currency and take you a long way as well. Thank you. That's just one. I could talk for a long time. I already have, so I won't. Don't worry. Any other questions?
Any more questions?
Yeah, I was just interested in the recruitment, Andrew. Does Amazon recruit on attitude or competence?
Oh, yeah. Well, clearly neither. It's a great question. So one of the things that is really important to us is to recruit based on culture. That's part of maintaining our culture. So that doesn't mean that we don't want a diversity of ideas and a diversity of thinking. We want to hire what we call builders and let them build. Everybody is a builder at Amazon. So it doesn't matter whether you work in public policy, you could work in estates. Anybody can invent and build things. You could build a new policy. You can create a suggestion that says, actually, the way we arrange chairs is crazy. We should do things in a different way. We hire and we test people to make sure that they will invent and build on people's behalf. So those leadership principles that I showed earlier, that is basically what we are assessing people on when we recruit. Competence, technical competence is there, of course, but it's not the defining factor. And sometimes that's a differentiator with public sector. Public sector is, here's the role requirements. Do you tick, 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 tick? You're hired. At Amazon, cultural fit and hiring for the long term. So, okay, it seems like you'll be good for this role, but we want to hire people that will be good for a variety of roles and that we can help them in their career and they can go and do different things as well. So very, very different. We have this thing called the loop at Amazon, part of the recruitment process. Basically, you have a series, around about 5 half-an-hour one-on-one interviews with individuals at Amazon. And they will ask you competency-based questions based on the leadership principles. So what is the most important thing you've invented on behalf of your customers? Tell us about a time you've disagreed with your leadership team and what did you do about it? So really testing prior behaviour around culture and attitude. That's what's really important to us. That's what helps us maintain our day one culture. Thank you.
We have a question online. How has Andrew's time working at Staff's Uni benefited the working culture there?
Say that again, sorry, I was there.
How has Andrew's time working at Staff's Uni
Yes.
benefited the working culture there? So what have you done, Andrew, at the University of Staffordshire?
What have I done? So my reading from that is, how have I helped improve the culture maybe at Amazon? And again, it comes back to what I was saying to Amazon. It is bringing some of the customer stories to life a bit more and the wider impact of what it means to work with public sector. I'm hopeful, and that's what I've tried to bring to Amazon. So, okay, we obsess over our direct customers, but actually there's some real social value to the work that we can do together. Let's focus on that and celebrate on that. I have talked about unicorns as well to the team at Amazon. It hasn't quite caught on as much as it did here, but it will. Give me time. Yeah, I know. What I think I've also hopefully brought to Amazon is just knowing actually what it's like to work within a public sector organisation, the demands on you, some of the pressures, but the fun that you have at the same time and bringing that to life. It's very different from just being in a meeting with somebody in public sector. Actually working and living and breathing public service is very, very different. So bringing some of that culture there, hopefully, is what I've been able to do. But thank you for the question online.
Yeah, thank you very much, Andrew, for amazing presentations. You've done it in the same way as the Concorde would have flown between Europe and the USA and back. Now, one particular thing drew my attention was the display of the culture at Amazon. And it could be me, I'm slow in probably processing what I see, but nothing appears there in relation to the environment and sustainability. Is that something, I mean, missed out of your slide, or is that not something of importance to Amazon?
Yeah. Fortunately, neither. So one of our leadership principles is about how being a big global tech company brings with it responsibility. I probably won't have time to skip through all of that. But one of our leadership principles is scale at the size of a company like Amazon brings responsibility. Our responsibility is to better the environment. Amazon is the world's largest corporate purchaser of renewable energy. Again, as well, actually, research has suggested that by moving to Amazon cloud services, it is 5 times more energy efficient than using your own data center as well. So in terms of sustainability efforts, we work really hard with customers to help them achieve our goals, and the cloud can be very sustainable. We continue to invest in the UK as well in terms of data centers and renewable energy. We're on a path to being carbon neutral by 2025 as well, so net carbon zero in terms of using energy at our data centers. Something we work really hard at, but thank you for the challenge. It's vitally important that we do some of these things at scale without harming the environment, for sure. Thank you.
Thank you. And the last question.
Hi, Andrew. During your time at Amazon, what are the biggest obstacles you're facing, especially for small to medium-sized organisations, and how are you helping them to overcome them?
Great question. One of the things I would say about working at Amazon is that it feels a bit like a scrappy startup at times. So, and there is a reason for that. We have what we call a self-service culture, so don't expect everything to just come to you, all of the information you need. If there's something you need, go looking for it and go and get it. Sometimes that can make it quite scrappy. For startups, we significantly invest in startups, and that can be edtechs, health techs. One of the things that I do in my role, I work in partnership with University College London on something called the Centre for Digital Innovation. What we help them do, so of course we provide them with things like credits for cloud so they can accelerate what they're doing. We also help them to hone and refine their business ideas and their roadmaps through some of the Amazon mechanisms as well. Some of the biggest obstacles are the investment climate as well, finding investors. One of the biggest obstacles as well is probably SMEs coming in with a very, very fixed idea of what they're trying to achieve without sometimes the willingness to pivot from early feedback as well. So they're fallen in love with the solution, not the problem, essentially, and that's where we work to help them as well. So a little bit of the operating environment, some of it is on trying to steer and influence at the same time. But thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Can we also thank the events team and our tech support? So final round of applause. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you.